Yes,
Welcome to Glow Growth and Development.
thank you. Thank you very much.
And your name is
Taryn Sido.
Taryn Sido. I
Yes,
give you the opportunity to say your name just so I don't butcher it.
exactly. It's a good idea. It's always a good idea.
I was reading a little bit about your bio, and it's what WTF-H.
Yes, yes, the way to from here, or other versions of it can exist too, I'm sure.
Sure. Well, why don't you delve into it a little bit and explain the WTF-H?
Okay, so the WTF-H is really, I suppose, if we take a little bit of a back step before how that emerged, is I've always had a great desire or belief that business needs to be a place where people can find joy and upliftment and express themselves authentically. I really don't believe work needs to be a place where people suffer through it and struggle. And, you know, so many people are really just surviving the workplace and then, trying to get on with their lives. And we see that in stress and anxiety and leadership challenges, et cetera, et cetera. And I suppose when the pandemic hit, I think that that created a huge amount of opportunity for shift. So people needing to reassess what work is, what's important to them, and how they want to do it. And I think in the time that we've experienced this disruptive force in our lives, we first, as always, go into a deep sense of coping. We just get on with it. We move on and we get on with it and we make a plan and we set up home office and we do what we need to do in an attempt to ride it out and wait till things go back to normal. And, and we've all realized that there's a new sort of emerging kind of world. And I think that that creates a great opportunity to reassess how we work. And certainly with a lot of the people I work with, both from a leadership and people in corporate and business, we can see the challenges of, the collapse of boundaries that has existed. I call it my boss is in my bedroom and my child is in my boardroom kind of dynamic. And how do we deal with that? The fear factor of not wanting to lose my job, and then the guilt factor of being so grateful that I have a job still because so many people don't, and how that impacts the sort of dynamics of human behavior in business, and leaders not knowing how to connect, inspire, hold people accountable, the fatigue and the decision fatigue that is around. And so the WTF from here is obviously the WTF has got to play on words in terms of this huge disruption that's happened. But really, what if we paused and looked for how do we, rather than cope with everything and just try and replicate what we did before, truly reassess a new way to allow people to define a healthier way of working for themselves, and whatever that means for any organization and any person and any leader. And I think that's challenging. I think it's challenging for people. I think it's challenging for leaders. I think it's challenging for organizations to redefine culture and to find out what's healthy, what's good. We need to be more humane in work. We need to find a more, like, raise the consciousness that people are more aware that these are human beings experiencing life and doing the best they know how to do, rather than assets that need to perform at their best and keep it up. So that's really, in a nutshell, my curiosity around what does this create opportunity for, and how do we get people to express what this has meant for them and what they need now, what's changing, what does work look like, and what does that mean for leaders and cultures going forward. So I think that that's what WTF-H is all about for me, certainly.
Yeah, you know, it's um, it's an opportunity for growth.
Mm,
It's an
mm,
opportunity for the leaders to grow and to grow and become the leader that they
mm,
should be. It's an
mm,
opportunity for the lay person or common person to grow and become in who they should be. It's really given an opportunity for the world to be shaken a little bit, and you know, when things get shaken, a lot of the non-essentials or the fluff or the dust or the dirt and debris or whatever it might be, the clutter, you know, it's an opportunity for that to fall away, to be cleaned up, and to really assess somebody's life for what is truly essential, what's truly needed, what's important. You know, in your bio, you asked what was one thing that you learned from the pandemic, or one positive thing that you gained from the pandemic. And I would say that it was the relationships that weren't healthy, or the relationships that weren't necessarily needed, or the relationships that were short term that I was holding on to for the long term. And really it was just a short term relationship. And it gave me an opportunity to shed some of those relationships to build and develop new ones.
Yeah, I think that that's certainly something we've seen with a lot of people is there's been an opportunity to find the real truth of what is superficial and what has depth in my life, what is real and what is not. And there's a lot of loss that brings with it a lot of grief. I mean, there's a lot of people that are dealing with a lot of emotional turmoil at this point in time, the loss of their own stability, their life, friendships, relationships, and that creates great opportunity for emerging into a new version of yourself. But there needs to be space for that processing of this grief and the stress and all these things. And we're such a high performance culture, really, especially in the Western world, that we must just, you know, get on and do it. You must be resilient. You must push forward. You must get on. There's such an opportunity. Like maybe we need to just create some space for everybody to breathe a little bit and process their life and have some time to think about it. And I think that if we force the growth too quickly, in the sense of this is something we must grow from, I think we can end up with a lot more post-traumatic stress that goes underground again, and a lot more burnout in different ways. And so, you know, I'm a huge fan of like slow down to speed up in this process, because we never deal with it as an integrative thing, like the mental process, the emotional process, the spiritual process, and the physical. We kind of just like, okay, let's get on with it. This is the next thing, you know, let's do. And yeah, I can see it. I work with people all day, every day, and I can just see how tired they are, and how just finding space to talk about what's going on is hard for people, because we must perform and we must, and I really think there's a space to redefine resilience, that, you know, resilience is not just get up and go. Resilience is sit back and breathe and learn about yourself. And I think that's hard for organizations and leaders to create space for, because they don't know how to do it themselves. You know?
We could deep dive into that conversation for a good bit. You know,
Yes, we could.
as far as myself and Glow Growth and Development is concerned, it is to take the people from the 5% and move them over to the 95%, and to break through that shell of that world where they come from, where there is that driver and that person with the whip, and they're cracking the whip, or themselves, whether they do it to themselves or it's external, and they're being driven, and to take them and to break from that shell and move into the 95% to where they can just be. And when they can just be and learn to rest and have faith and confidence in that being, then it changes a lot.
Yeah, I very much agree. I'm very much on the same page. As I think we're in the age of beingness as opposed to doingness, and allowing people to express themselves.
So I have two questions I want to pose to you, and you can answer them in whatever. And we'll go with the first one is, where's your ancestry from, being from South Africa? And two, I noticed your tagline, or one of your things, is Light Walker. So answer where you're from, and then tell us about Light Walker.
So what's my ancestry coming from South Africa? I'm looking at Eric here. I really don't know how to even begin to answer that question. I think, I grew up in apartheid South Africa, not knowing, in the age where I grew up, I hate to admit that I was almost ignorant to some of the pain that was going on in my own country, but that was part of the process of life. And I think experiencing, as I am matriculated, as I came out of the world of being very closeted and going into the world of work, because I started work at the age of 19 in corporate South Africa, and then being exposed to life in South Africa. And we were very much in the transformation years when Nelson Mandela had just been released, and really exposing myself to a level of curiosity about human beings in the world and what that's like. And I think that's always been a part of my makeup, is sort of empathy for people's experience. And I think South Africa, in a strange way, is one of these really unique places that has got so much diversity and so much willingness to find a way forward. That the people, certainly the people in my life that I just a joy to have learned from and grow from, create space for real respect of difference. And I think that's, there's still a lot of pain, there's a lot of wounds, there's a lot of perspective, there's a lot of microaggressions. I think just being awake is not enough to heal a lot of the wounds of the past. But I think, the more conscious we are about our own biases and how we approach them, that gives us opportunity for, I call it bridge building, creating space to learn about each other and become different human beings. And working in corporate South Africa, you get exposed to lots of lots and lots and lots of different cultures and religions and biases and tendencies, and that opens up your mind to many things. Well, certainly for me it has. I don't think that's true for everyone necessarily. So I'm not sure if that answers your question in terms of my ancestry, because I can go much further back, but I'm not sure that that's really that useful now. Does that answer your question, or does it?
So I had
Something
mentioned
curious about?
the lady from the Paralympic swimmer from
Yes.
South Africa, and I want to say her answer was of British descent somewhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So my father's family is very Afrikaans, so it comes from sort of Dutch, I think, background more than anything. But I'm not a fan of the past. So you probably asked me the question and I'm like, oh well, I'm so much more invested in not letting that define me and creating space for the emerging sort of way forward. And then your second question about the tagline of Lighthawker. I worked in corporate South Africa. I worked in the banking world. I was head of finance and risk and operations for a merchant bank for 17 years was how long I was there. I firsthand experienced the work hard, play hard kind of culture, and burnt out very badly, really burnt out to the sense that I'd missed out on a large part of my children's lives. I wasn't present to them because I was working and I was the breadwinner and it was important and all the things that go with that. But through my career in banking, I was always very passionate about the impact you have on people and what that means. And I didn't realize it then, hindsight, you can see a lot more of your patterns, but I was always curious around that. And then when I left the world of banking, very burnt out at the age of 32, and I decided that I would never lose myself to a job or a career or a relationship again. I became quite invested in connecting back to myself and went through a journey of healing myself, and in that process started my own coaching practice and was working with teams and individuals and organizations to help them become the best versions of themselves. But through that journey, had quite a deep reconnection back with my own essence, I suppose, my own spirituality. And I refer to spirituality as whatever brings you connection and meaning and joy, as opposed to any one dogma. And so through that journey, as I started, my business started to evolve and now has changed quite radically into a business that is called I Am Lightwalker. It really is that every step you take, you leave an impact. You can't not have an impact on people in the world. You can try not, but it's an impossible thing. Just by being present in a room, whether you're speaking or not speaking, you're having an impact. And so becoming conscious and aware of the impact you're having and walking lightly, you're leaving a trail behind you that you can say, I'm proud of that. I've left people, more empowered, more supported. And it's not a process of perfection. I think it's more a process of ownership and awareness. I often say to people or leaders and people I work with, have you ever wondered what it's like to be on the receiving end of you and the impact you have just by being there? And so Lightwalker is really own the way you walk, and like walk with lightness, which can mean, light and shadow, but also light as in leaving things lighter. It doesn't have to create heaviness. You don't have to create fear to get things done. You don't have to create toxicity to make people scared of you so that you can be powerful. So it encompasses all those aspects within it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, because you can leave a negative impact.
Yeah. Everybody has an impact.
Yeah, it could be on the plus side or the negative side, or however you want to define that vibration or energy, on the scale of things. But yes, you're leaving an impact, and being conscious and aware of that. I think you come into the room differently.
I think as leaders, I sometimes jokingly ask the question, how many people are in therapy because of you? Because, there are hundreds
I take
of
people out of therapy. I try and get people out of therapy.
Me too. So, and I think, leaders have a profound and sacred opportunity to enrich the lives of many, many human beings. And if they can step into the grace of that chance and do that with care and dignity and respect, I think the world could be, maybe I'm an idealist, but I think the world could be such a different place.
So I have a Glow group on Messenger,
Okay.
and we just kind of, it's on Messenger, so I just add people as they want to join and whatever. So the other day I asked the question, what am I looking for? Or what are you looking for? If the collision is but for a second, how beautiful that would be. And when I refer to the collision, it's the collision between me and you.
Yes.
It's the collision between me and that other person. And sometimes that collision is just for a blip and it's done. And sometimes that collision maintains and lasts through eternity.
Yeah. And that collision of a split second can be a meaningful interaction. You don't need to know somebody's name.
Nuclear power. Nuclear power.
Exactly. And it just takes a willingness to be present and own. And we all have crap. We're all dealing with our lives. We're all doing the best we know how to do, which is often not very good, but you can just pay attention to the impact you have, and learn as you go, take accountability. I think learning is sometimes even more powerful than growth, even though that's what it leads to. That sense of accountability for your own impact.
There's somebody was pointing out the difference or the learning and the understanding of the lesson.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to learn the same thing over and over and over until we get wise enough to realize you're part of the story, like it's not happening to you. You're contributing to this in some way.
Right. So I was having this, I get into these conversations frequently. So anyway, last night I was having a conversation with a friend talking about how Israel walked around the mountain for 40 years. How in my life I walked around the mountain, a mountain for 20 some odd years in business. How until you realize, okay, I'm walking around the mountain. What's the lesson I need to learn? Let's learn the lesson, understand it, and move on and
Yeah.
grow and become into the next higher version of ourselves. But
Yeah.
some people just are in the middle of that. And that's where compassion and empathy and grace and all that stuff comes into play, is because sometimes you look at the person, you want to pull them away from the mountain. You're like, I can help you get away from the mountain, but they're continually walking around it. And you're just like, have to say, okay, be blessed. When you figure it out, you will.
And I mean, you made that point earlier, which was so beautiful, is that in the experiences of people in their world of work, it's not always somebody else, forcing you to work that way. It's their own self-imposed rules and attachment to my self-worth being about how busy I am, and not knowing how to set my own boundaries and to take care of myself because that's selfish. Whatever rules and beliefs and identities that they have. And that's the mountain, isn't it? So that's my attachment to the way I know how to do things, even if I'm miserable. Like misery is not enough to change. It takes immense courage to take accountability and detach from all these things that we have in our life that keep us feeling safe or valuable or loved or secure or whatever it is. And human beings are amazingly beautiful in their complexity. That there's just this curiosity I always have of how people can shift. And when they're ready, they will. When they're ready, if they feel safe, they will. And that's, I suppose, why I talk so much about fear in the workplace is not useful, because nobody shows up the best version of themselves when they're fearful.
And
I don't.
and as a parent, that's what
Yes,
I was brought up under. I was brought up under the fear. And so
yes.
for the last 20 some odd years of being a parent, I
Mm,
operated in the fear as being giving the fear. And since I've started my journey a couple years back and coming to the place where I am now, I've come to realize, okay, go learn and go live. I tell my kids, go figure it out.
mm.
Go figure it
Make
out.
mistakes. Just sort it
Yeah.
out.
Go just
Yeah,
that, because you make a mistake, because you fail, it's okay. Dust
yeah,
yourself up, get up, and keep moving on. And I'll be there for you when you fall, and I'll wipe your tears if you want, or put a band-aid
yeah,
on your knee.
yeah.
But let's go.
Yeah, and the process of allowing people to get really intimate with their own fear so that they can notice it and acknowledge it and not let it take them over, so they can find their courage. Again, I really believe the role of leaders is to remove the fear so people can show up expressing themselves authentically and taking accountability and learning, rather than hiding things away and trying to stay out of trouble. And you find out interesting stuff in audit committees because everybody's hiding stuff from you. And then we just hire more and more people to check up on more and more people and add more and more fear into the entire system. um it for me, I really, people don't want to screw up. People don't want to be awful. I've never met a person who says, today I'm going to be the worst version of myself and try and upset as many people as possible. It's just not a human, maybe there's a small percentage and I haven't been fortunate enough to meet them, but most people are trying to get through the day and do their best and figure out
So
how to do it well.
I had a very interesting or unique thought last night. And so I study Bob Proctor, and I studied subconscious stuff. And
Mm,
they say that there's two ways to make an impact into the subconscious: constant space-time repetition, or a dramatic effect.
mm,
And a
mm,
dramatic effect typically makes a really hard impression on your subconscious.
yeah,
And so I'm like, well, how can we, right? So I'm thinking about all these people out there going through life, and how can we start rewiring their brain and rewriting the code? And
yeah,
they could go through the exercise of that constant space-time repetition, or we could just go around lighting nuclear bombs off.
Exactly.
I'm joking, everybody.
Yeah, so I think that's why the WTFH is in my mind, it's such a great opportunity for something that has really created a void of opportunity. There is this opportunity for people to use this disruption to reevaluate. The danger is the getting too quickly into coping, and we're just going to repeat what we did before, just copy paste and just keep going. And and so I think that's the WTF from WTFH is like, let's just use it, use this disruption in a way so that we can receive the opportunity from it, that we can create something new. But it takes a brave, brave, brave leader to sit back and say, okay, let's reassess. Let's step into a new way of doing things. Because I can't remember, Eric will tell me who said it, but given the choice, people will normally want, what's it? How do you say it? Sorry, you'll have to.
Control and results.
People would rather have control than results. So even from Peter Block said that. So even though, we want things to be different, just do it my way, and then we'll do it differently, as opposed to that true surrender to let's see what can emerge if we allow it to be different. Let's surrender control, let's transfer responsibility to people so they can show up and see what they do with it. And magic will happen if we can allow it without fear to be there.
I want to come to Africa this year.
Oh, do you? Where do you want to stay in Africa?
So there's a nonprofit that I started, and I've been helping people in Uganda.
Okay. Oh,
And-
wow. Okay.
And so it's on my mental to-do list checklist to get to Uganda.
Okay. Well, when you come to Uganda, you can let us know. It's a little bit further to Johannesburg, but maybe we can make a plan.
Yeah. So tell me how I can help you. Tell me how what's your next step? What are you looking to do? What's the impact you're looking to make? And how can I and the Glow family help you?
What a beautiful question. So I think the answer that comes up for me seems twofold. The one is I'm really, really looking to speak to as many people as possible that are willing to give input into this experience and to research it from the place of not necessarily only my perspective and intuition and awareness, but to create space for people to share what their reflections and insights and experiences, their real life experiences been, so we can gather a pool of stories that can illustrate what's possible and what's changing and what's needed. Just being aware that people's needs are changing and the experience of life is unique for each person. So anybody who is willing to spend 45 minutes with me and just talk to me about their experience, I'd be deeply honored and grateful to use that as part of the research. And then also anywhere where there's an opportunity for us to talk to leaders about the opportunity to bring a sort of more holistic, healthy approach to engaging with people and are willing to explore their own fears and insecurities around that and what the shift and change is. I'm always looking for brave leaders that are willing to partner in the opportunity to do things. And I think the world has become so beautifully flat through this process that suddenly, we can truly live with a world that doesn't have as many borders as before. We can engage in so many different ways. And so I think, I'm not sure if that answers the question.
It does. Are you and I connected on Facebook? Have we been?
I don't
Did we
I don't
add
think I'm connected to you, no. I know you're connected to Eric, who's my partner, and he supports me in my business as well. But I'll find you on Facebook. You're connected to Titus on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he is. So I'll
So
find you.
the Glow group the messenger group that I have created, and if you would like, I would add you to that group.
That'll be great. It'll be great. I'd
The
love that.
conversation is all over the place. Sometimes we're talking deep, meaningful, soulful things, and sometimes we're just being silly. And
Oh, that's great. It's called human.
yes, yes.
That'll be great. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
I would love to see the picture behind you.
Oh, there's the picture behind me.
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm getting, wait, I'm not getting it there.
Did you do that, or who did that?
No, I don't know who painted this one.
There's an art teacher at Janet's school.
An art teacher at a friend of mine's school. She painted it.
You see that right there? That's Glow artwork.
Oh, wow.
So Glow has Glow Creations. So we do artwork too.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
So tell me.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome.
So yeah, tell the audience how they can find you, how they can reach out to you, and granted you're in Central Africa time zone, so it's not like there's it's going on 10 a.m. here. What time is it there? 6?
It's nearly 7 p.m. here.
7
evening.
Nearly 7.
Yeah,
okay.
So well, it's 6:25 to 7 now. Yes.
Well, I appreciate you staying on after hours.
No problem. It's not after hours yet. It's no problem at all. People can find me. I'm very active on Facebook. The Lightwalker brand has 2 different lenses. One is called I Am Lightwalker, which is more an individual for people that are on their own individual journey towards their healing, their growth, their connection to themselves. And then the other one is Lightwalker Consulting, which is where we do the WTF-H. So you can connect on both of those on Facebook pages, or www.imlightwalker.com or www.lightwalkerconsulting.com. Either of those websites, you'll find my details and be able to connect with me there. So either of those.
So I've recently discovered for myself Glow. There's 2 sides to Glow. There's the red side to Glow, which is business, sales, and the yellow side of Glow, which is the heart and the purpose and the passion.
So aligned, isn't it?
It's crazy how you're talking about there's 2 sides to it. I'm like, yeah, there really are. For myself, there are 2 sides.
Yeah. I mean, I Am Lightwalker is really there for anybody who wants to reach out as an individual in their own process and however that manifests for them. And I do lots of different stuff under that brand. And then the Lightwalker Consulting is a lot more around this focus on organizational wellness and healing and creating space for a different kind of leader to emerge and a different kind of business. And there are many businesses that are doing it beautifully, so there's so many examples where businesses are doing it. It's just sadly not the norm as yet. So creating space for that dialogue and those awarenesses, how to move forward there. Beautiful.
I so appreciate the work that you are doing, right? You are on the forefront of this movement, I believe, and there's a lot of people, there's a huge wave behind us. And we're pushing the boundaries today for others' freedoms tomorrow.
Exactly. It's so beautiful you say that. I'm running a freedom program this week. It's a free program I'm running for 5 days it's called Creating Your Freedom Blueprint, and really just creating space for people to think about their own life and how to take accountability for what you want and what you desire and how to create it. But thank you very much. It's always wonderful to meet someone who is on the same wavelength and is willing to create space and time for us to have these conversations. So thank you for the work you're doing as well. And for creating space for us all to come together. I call it little networks of light, and enough networks of light will create some space for something new in the world to emerge. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It will sparkle across the universe.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. But I will connect with you on Facebook, and I really would love to join your Glow community in whichever way we can all partner up. It's great.
Yes. You guys have a wonderful day or evening in South Africa, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Beautiful. I do too. Thank you, Titus. Thank you so much. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Cheers. Bye-bye.